Hi there, grade 11s. Welcome to my channel. My name is teacher Ilona Smith. Today we are going to dive into Term 1's topics, which is avenues of acquiring a business. This is quite a nice topic, so I hope you enjoy. All right, avenues of acquiring a business. Let's go. Here is a textbook that I've made use of to create the slides and for the content in this video today. I've used the content as is and I haven't changed it, not a single bit. The reason I've done this is because, as we all know, for business studies, we do need to write it according to the notes and the textbook, and it has to be word for word. Therefore, changing it may disadvantage you. And trust me, as a teacher and a content creator, that's the last thing I want to do. So I have made use of it as is, but I do not take any credit for the information given in the slide and in this video today. All right, introduction. So, in topic 13 in grade 10, we learned about the meaning of a business opportunity and we looked at some examples of that. Remember that a business opportunity is a chance for a person to start a business so that they can generate an income. Entrepreneurship is the activity of setting up a business or businesses, taking on financial risks in the hope of making a profit. Entrepreneurs are people who constantly look at new business opportunities and they take risks when starting new businesses. So in this topic, we're going to explore why would someone want to buy an existing business versus starting their own business, and then obviously the different ways that this can be done too. All right. Reasons why entrepreneurs may decide to buy an existing business. Okay, this is very, very important heading. That's also a very nice one that they like to ask in tests and exams. I mean, I know I say this a lot in my video, but I hope you guys are jotting it down. I hope you're making notes of this because really, upon my own research and setting up question papers myself, I have seen this question come up and pop up a lot, even in an essay. All right, so when an entrepreneur wants to start a new business, he or she could consider various options. One option is that they could purchase a business that is existing. So for example, if an entrepreneur wants to open a motorcycle repair business, he or she may shop around to find out if there are any existing businesses that wants to sell their business. The entrepreneur and the owner can then agree whether the business will be sold with all of its assets, which includes stock and goodwill, and agree on the price for the business. The entrepreneur will then take ownership and continue to run the business on a mutually agreed time and date. So, I mean, it is quite nice at times if you are going to buy an existing business. The reason why is the staff are all already there. You have the staff, you've got the human resources, you've got all the equipment, you've got the premises, you also have most likely the clientele. So, in a lot of ways, sometimes it's a bit easier to buy an existing business versus starting your own business. Okay. All right, here in the table, you'll see are the exact reasons and the information you'll be writing when you are asked this type of question. So we have established business, established customer base, established name and reputation, known market, mentorship, cash flow, financing, current staff, and market position. I did mention a few of these in my ramble a few seconds ago. So, established business. An established business should not take up too much time to set up as all the requirements needed to run the business are already in place. Established customer base. An established business should have an existing customer base. So, they've already got the customers, they know about the business. Established name and reputation. When an entrepreneur buys an existing business, it may come with goodwill from an existing good reputation in the market. People are creatures of habit, so if they shop at the same hardware store for several years, they will likely continue to shop there even if there's a new owner that takes over. It is a good idea to state that the transfer of ownership includes the company's phone number, their website, and their registered name. Known market. The market research has already been done for this existing business. So the new owner can use that information and then go forward with future plans. Mentorship. Starting a business can be overwhelming. If you can purchase an existing business, the owner may be willing to stay on for agreed amount of time to mentor and guide the incoming owner. Cash flow. An existing business already has customers and continued cash flow. By comparison, a startup can take a long time to attract new customers and become cash positive. Buying an existing business can offer greater security over working capital and help the new owner to improve cash flow sooner. Financing. Many existing companies have 3 or more years of profitable financials. That makes it easier to secure financing either from a traditional bank, government, or an organization, or even a venture capitalist. Current staff. Only 1 in 10 startups make it past the second year. Many businesses fail during growth as the business tries to hire more staff. Having trained staff in place can ensure the smooth transfer and contribute to the success of the business. Market position. When an entrepreneur buys an existing business, it can increase its market position. Similar, it can increase its customer base, market share, and resources. So here are the reasons. They might ask you in a question, um, discuss 4 reasons why an entrepreneur may want to buy an existing business, or they may just say, elaborate on the reasons, and then there you can give any reasons possible, but they might sometimes give you a specific figure of how many they want you to name there. All right, so now we're going to go through the meaning, advantages, disadvantages, and contractual implications of financing, outsourcing, and leasing. So in the previous unit, we explored why it's sometimes maybe easier for an entrepreneur to buy an existing business than to start a new one. If an entrepreneur has enough investment capital available, he or she could consider buying a business using one of the following options: franchising, outsourcing, or like I said, leasing. Let's look at franchising. Franchising is a license to use the name, idea, and process of an existing business in a specific geographical area. A franchise is an agreement between the franchisor and the franchisee. Okay, before we dive too much there. Okay, the franchisor is the person that is offering the franchise, almost like selling it to you. Okay, I have the franchise, I'm offering it to you. The franchisee is the person buying the franchise. So they're the person that's actually going to be running the franchise. So, according to a franchise agreement, the franchisee obtains the right from the franchisor to use the name, trademark of the franchisor, and to sell the franchise's products. A franchise serves as a marketing and distribution system for franchises. Many restaurant chains in South Africa, such as Debonairs, KFC, Wimpy, Steers, and McDonald's, are run as franchises. So, the advantage of a franchise. Forms of franchising that are not available to the public are often available to franchises. Purchasing a franchise could be cheaper than starting your own business. A business is based on a proven idea and the product and services are tried and tested. If I'm going to start a KFC, the products have already been tried and tested, and it's a well-known brand. So if I'm going to buy a franchise of KFC, I already have the customer base. I already have the reputation. Do you see where we're going with this? Like, it can be a bit easier to to buy over a franchise than to start my own business where I need to prove to customers why they want to buy my product. I need to do sampling and testing, and there's a whole process to it. Whereas if I'm buying a franchise of KFC or McDonald's, it's all already tried and tested, and the brand has been going for years and years. All right, then reduced long term financial risk. Management advice is often provided, so it is not necessary to be a business expert. Franchises often offer entrepreneurial help. Established suppliers give bulk discounts as they form part of a larger group. Businesses are able to use a recognized brand name and register trademark. The systems, operations, and services are well established. Okay, continuing with the advantages. Franchise agreements dictate how to run the business, so there'll be very little room for creativity. As that might seem as a disadvantage, sometimes it's an advantage because you don't need to constantly be creative. You can just run the business as you being told to. You don't have to be creative and come up with creative things and as it mentioned, the tried and tested. Okay. They are usually restricted on how they operate, so the products you sell and the suppliers you use. Franchises often have an established reputation and image, proven management and work practices across access to national advertising and ongoing support. Franchises offer the independence of a small business ownership, supported by the benefit of a big business network. You do not necessarily need business experience to run a franchise. So, franchises usually provide the training that you will need to operate the business model. Do you see there already? It's making it so much easier. They are showing you and giving you the tools and training on how to run the business. You don't have to figure it out yourself. And then it said earlier that they offer the mentorship too, so that you will get help even if you are struggling. Franchises, franchises have a higher rate of success than startup businesses. The marketing and advertising costs can be shared, so they are lower than for a non franchise business. There is often access to a group of support from other franchises and a network of communication and legal advice. An operational franchise is an established business, so there is less financial risk. Franchises and their staff receive training and support from the franchisor. Banks will more likely grant financial assistance to an established business. The product is already well known in the market, which guarantees sales and good returns. Franchises benefit from lower costs due to centralized buying from the franchisor. Now let's look at the disadvantages. Acquiring a franchise can be an expensive initial layout. It is sometimes difficult to sell a franchise or to terminate the contract. The high initial franchise cost can make it difficult to buy into the franchise agreement. There are often restrictions in the agreement in terms of how to run the business. Some creative entrepreneurs feel limited as to how much they can grow and expand their ideas. The brand could get a bad reputation through their franchisees. A large portion of profit is paid in royalties, and often the franchises do not deliver on their promises. So maybe they promise you the training, but you don't actually get the training. It is often difficult to sell a franchise or to end a contract. Franchisees have to pay royalties or a share of the profit to franchisors. The startup costs could be quite high. There are maybe too many outlets which may flood a specific area. So I don't know if you've noticed it, but there are some areas that have so many of one franchise. Um, I think one that I noticed was KFC in Kempton Park. I mean, there are so many KFCs in Kempton Park. It's actually it's a lot. Um, and recently, I've noticed in Benoni, now recently, there are a lot of McDonald's. There was only really one or two McDonald's. Now there's about three in the area. So if you're wanting to start a franchise and there might be too many, your business, it might not work because there are too many in the area. Running a franchise restricts creativity because all the outlets need to be carrying the same branding. One poor performing outlet may risk the reputation of the entire franchise. A good example of this currently is the example of what's happening with the Pick and Pays within Kempton Park specifically. So, There's the one in Birchley. That one has closed. There's one in Norcombe that has closed. There's another one in Glenmarais. So, what do you think the reputation of Pick and Pay as a whole is having on this franchise? So now, to my understanding and my knowledge, this franchise is owned by it's a family that owns these Pick and Pays. So they own all of these, and there was money owing, so they've actually closed down these Pick and Pays. But now again, it's just that franchise, is that owner. I hear about it all the time. And it's becoming a huge problem because people are having to travel far to go to other Pick and Pays. And what might actually be happening is a lot of these customers are now moving over to buying at Checkers and Spar and ShopRite because there aren't Pick and Pays close by. And I even saw an article a few days ago that it seems like Checkers is now going to be taking over the one in Elgin Mall. So do you see how that one transaction and that disagreement has now affected the whole brand of Pick and Pay? And yes, it's just within Kempton Park, but how many people live in Kempton Park? That's a huge population. And as we know, word of mouth spreads. So people could get weary about the Pick and Pays in their area and wondering, are they going to close down? Is something going to happen to them? So, can you see with this last bullet, if one thing happens bad to one of them, how it's a ripple effect to the rest of them and the entire brand as a whole? So, contractual implications of franchising. The following conditions should be included in the franchise agreement. So, policies that govern the products and services, royalties, and the date of payment, the form of ownership that the franchise will use, operation specific like marketing strategy and pricing, a termination clause that details the circumstances under which the parties may end the legal relationship. All right, let's move on to outsourcing. Outsourcing is the business practice of hiring a party outside of a company to perform services that were traditionally performed in-house by the company staff. Companies use outsourcing to cut labor costs and to reduce overhead expenses, such as expenses for equipment, technology. Businesses who wish to scale down and focus on the core aspects of the business outsource the less critical operations to outside organizations. Compensation structures of businesses and their employees, and businesses and companies they have outsourced some roles to, are usually different. This enables businesses to have work done for less money and to lower its labor costs. So a good example there is I could outsource my financing. Okay, they did say less critical operations, so that's quite a critical one if someone's going to mess up my finances, but also it's in jeopardy of the other business if they're not going to do my finances properly. So the bookkeeping and financing, I know a lot of businesses get an outsourced company that specifically will do your bookkeeping and financing for your business. Another one could be perhaps your cleaning services. I see this a lot. When I was studying at Varsity College, they got Bidvest to clean the campus. So it's an outsourced company. The nice thing, which I know we're going to get into later, the nice thing about outsourcing is because it's a separate company, if I have problems, they can always send another employee, right, from their business to come in, do the cleaning services. Also, if I have problems, then it's for the external company to deal with, not to me. I don't need to deal with those staff members. It's the company I've outsourced that needs to deal with those. So it also, I think, creates less headaches and frustration as well because that company needs to be responsible for their staff members and how their staff members are conducting themselves. So the advantages of outsourcing. It will provide continuity during periods of high staff turnover. Okay, high staff turnover here, we're talking about if a lot of our staff members are leaving, we're having to replace them. So look at it as like a turnstile. So if someone's walking in the door, another person's walking out the door. So if I've got a high employee turnover rate, it's not a good thing. But if I'm outsourcing, it means that I can continue with my operations because It's an external company doing business for me. It allows businesses to focus on important business activities. Operations where costs are running out of control can benefit from outsourcing. Staffing flexibility is possible because the business can make use of seasonal cyclical demands. So, for example, when there are only times when there are certain times when we need extra labor. So maybe we need a few extra salespeople. Then we can outsource it just for that period. But then when we don't need salespeople, we can obviously stop a business with them. We don't have to terminate their contract and get rid of those staff members because remember, we're using the company as a service. On-site outsourcing will bring people with certain skill sets into the business, and existing employees can collaborate with them to gain new skills. A company is able to reduce costs as outsourcing can lead to a decrease in staff, remuneration, control, and operations costs. The business can focus on its vision, goals, and to apply its staff more effectively in the core businesses. Improved access to skilled people as the outsourced work will be done by highly skilled people without the company having to employ them. The business has access to resources and equipment for a specific function. Fixed costs and overheads are lower for the business. Disadvantages of outsourcing. The loss of management control over the task may affect the staff and it could lead to frustration. There may be a lack of personal care and quality as a business is not personally involved in the execution of this function. Remember, we've outsourced it, so we might not have hands-on like delegation and working within the function because we might trust that this other company is doing it properly. So things might not be done to our best ability, if that makes sense. So, like personal care, because there's another company's coming in, they might not be so aware of how to look after the dishes, and maybe they might be a bit reckless when washing the dishes and breaking a lot of cups and plates because they don't have that personal care, because they know they probably won't be fired from the job because they're just working there as an outsourced company. There are often hidden costs in outsourcing. The business relies on the outsourced company to produce the goods and services, and non delivery by the supplier can lead to a loss of unsatisfied staff or customers. Financial loss is very frustrating. Confidential issues could be at risk if information is given to another company that performs a function that is outsourced, such as our finances, as critical confidential information. Control of the outsourced product can be more complex. The outsourced company will dictate the terms of the contract, which could put you at a disadvantage if you are in desperate need when negotiations start. It could be risky to share information about payroll, medical records, and other confidential information with the outsourced company. An outsourcing company could go bankrupt, which will seriously affect the business. If only parts of the business operations are being outsourced, current staff may feel threatened and staff morale may suffer. So, if the staff see that, maybe this business is going to run by outsourced companies, am I secure in my position? Will I work here forever? Maybe not. And then that might make them negative. It might lower productivity levels and so on. Okay, contractual implications of outsourcing. There are several responsibilities and contractual implications related to outsourcing agreements. It is the responsibility of the outsourcing business to pay the outsourced provider the fee which they agree upon. In return, it is a responsibility from the outsourced provider to deliver the service which is agreed upon. Some details that should be addressed in the outsourcing agreement are the following: the responsibilities and rights of both of the parties, the length and duration of the contract, and a confidentiality clause to protect the privileged information. Now we're looking at leasing. A lease is a contract outlining the terms under which one party agrees to rent goods, such as equipment and technology owned by another party. It allows the user, the lessee, to make use of an asset, and it guarantees the property owner or the landlord, so the lessor, regular payments for a specific period in exchange. Okay, nice example of leasing. We're looking at assets or property that we are renting from the lessor. Okay, so perhaps I'm a dressmaking company and it's just far too expensive for me to buy all the industrial sewing machines for my operation to run. So I can rent those sewing machines. Now we're going to get to advantages and disadvantages a bit later. But the one nice thing is it's definitely going to be cheaper per month. And overall, it's going to be cheaper to rent those sewing machines. And at the end of the day, maybe if my business doesn't work out, I can just cancel that. I don't have all the stock and assets that I don't know what to do with. And the nice thing is that there should be regular maintenance of it. But one of the disadvantages is that I could be paying years and years for this asset, but never does it become my own. There's no specific period where it changes ownership and it goes from rental to owning. I am merely just renting that asset. All right, advantages. There is no large financial outlay as the cost is spread over a number of months or years. Like I said, we don't have to spend thousands of rands buying a new sewing machine. We are just renting it, which is going to be a lot less per month. The lessor normally covers the maintenance or replaces any damaged parts of the equipment. That's quite nice. So if anything is damaged or doesn't work, it's the lessor's responsibility, not our responsibility to fix it. The assets can be returned to the lessor when we no longer need it. There are tax advantages as rental payments are calculated as operating costs and are therefore tax deductible. It makes budgeting, planning, and administration practices easier, and it provides better control of our cash flow. It is easier to lease a better and newer version of a product without the capital outlay. As I mentioned, it's going to be so much cheaper and easier to get these brand new sewing machines and brand new equipment than having to actually fork out that money ourselves by owning it. The asset is used only until it is no longer needed or until the end of the lease agreement. The lessor is usually an expert in the field, so they will know what's best equipment that you would need. Maintenance is conducted regularly and should be written in the contract, which is also nice because then we don't have that extra cost either. Technicians are always on standby to offer advice and training on the equipment or the assets. The reputation of the company that leases the asset is at stake, so it'll make sure that the lessee receives the best after service sales. Okay, disadvantages of leasing. So the lessee does not automatically become the owner of the asset. So that's what I mentioned. We don't automatically become the owner. We just renting, and once we no longer need it or the contract ends, we have to give that asset back. No added tax advantages can be derived from leasing expenses. Lease payments are treated as expenses and not as payments towards an asset. When paying lease payments towards a property, the business cannot benefit from any appreciation of the value of the property. Okay, so if we're leasing and renting the property, it's going to grow in value, but that's not our value because remember, we're only renting it. The owner and the lessor is going to get the value of that property and that asset, which we are not going to get. Lease expenses reduce the net income of a business. It might be difficult for business to raise or access further loans because leasing is treated as debt. A lease agreement is a complex process and requires thorough documentation and proper examination of an asset being leased. The lessee normally remains responsible for the maintenance and proper operation of the asset being leased. The lessee is bound by the contract. Contractual implications of leasing. There are several responsibilities and contractual implications related to the lease agreements. The main responsibility and contractual rights of the lessee are the following. They have the right to occupy an asset, so for example, a property. They have the right to use the asset, so for example, if I'm using a delivery van. The responsibility to keep the asset in good or working condition. The responsibility of paying the fees and the rent on time. Not making any alterations or changes without the consent of the lessor. Where an asset needs to be insured, the lease agreement must stipulate that it needs to be insured. Alrighty, then mind map recap time. So here's a nice little mind map recap. This one's quite a short one. I think it could have been a bit broader, but that's okay. So there's a little mind map that you can jot down. And then here are the resources, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, that I've made use of to create the video today. Thank you once again for watching my video today, and thank you so much for all the support on my channel. I really do appreciate it. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing to my channel. Grade 11s, I hope my videos are helpful, and I hope that you have found some insight with them. I do plan in June to do past papers. I know those videos are quite long and it takes a lot of prep work, but I've seen how helpful it is, and I see how much feedback I got from the one I did in term 1. So I'm definitely looking at doing that for the June exams coming up. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your holidays, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.